Singer David has hired a prominent defense attorney as rumors and speculation around the death of a 14-year-old girl, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, continue to grow. The teen was found dead in a car registered to the viral artist, who was in the middle of a tour when her remains were found. Now, as Celeste's family prepares to say goodbye, we're digging into the latest details as well as theories about what might have happened to her, and we're going to break it all down with criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Matt Mangino. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. One of the songs that rocketed David Anthony Burke, known by his moniker David, to stardom was Romantic Homicide. It is back on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, okay, the hit, which originally went viral on TikTok back in 2022. It has re-entered the charts at number 38, according to Billboard. So why the sudden interest? Well, for anybody who's been following us here on Sidebar, you know there is a lot going on right now. It seems that fans, new and old, are connecting that chilling song title with an investigation into the death of a teenager who was apparently associated or connected with David before she went missing in 2024. Now, we're talking about the fact that her body was found in a car registered in his name. We are covering every angle of the investigation by LAPD into Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death. The cause of death, which is so far listed as deferred on her death certificate. We don't know the manner of death either. Police say her decomposed body was found in the trunk of a Tesla at Hollywood Tow Yard in Los Angeles back in September. This was one day after she would have turned 15. LAPD sources told People magazine that Celeste's remains had likely been inside that car for weeks as it sat, apparently abandoned on a neighborhood street before it was towed. Tow yard workers had called the police when at least one person had realized there was this horrible smell coming from the car. That is when first responders found Celeste's body. It was apparently wrapped in a plastic bag. But here's the thing, despite that Tesla being registered to David, despite him apparently renting a property near where that car was parked, and even despite his alleged connection to the victim, he has not been named as a suspect. He has not been named as a person of interest. He has not been implicated officially in any wrongdoing or any crime. In fact, no one has been named as a suspect so far. In fact, an LAPD commanding officer said it is possible that Celeste wasn't even murdered. That perhaps her death, when we think about it, was it attributed to something else, an accident, overdose? In other words, there is a possibility that the only crime could be someone tried to hide her body. So as we await more testing, like toxicology reports, we know that the medical examiner performed an autopsy on Celeste's remains, determined that she was not pregnant, nor had she been pregnant in the last year. That's important because there's been speculation that there could have been some sort of sexual relationship between David and this young girl. He's 20 years old right now. And as more and more rumors spread about David's alleged potential involvement, he has canceled his music tour, which was supposed to include more stops in the U.S., also abroad. He appears to have gone off the grid. We don't know where he is. His social media pages kind of void of new videos and photographs. But there is this. This is new. LA Magazine now reports that David has hired a prominent celebrity defense attorney, Blair Burke. Now, she has represented very high-profile clients: Harvey Weinstein, CeeLo Green, Bruno Mars, Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan. She also, by the way, most recently represented Monica Cementelli, the Los Angeles mom who was sentenced to life in prison for the 2017 murder of her celebrity hairstylist husband, Fabio Cementelli. So to talk about this, to talk about the implications of these new details, particularly hiring a defense attorney, let's bring in our own criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, Matt Mangino. To be clear, Matt doesn't represent us in a criminal arena, but we love having him on. He's a great guest. Matt, it's really good to see you. So a lot of online sleuths in the true crime community, they are obsessed with this case. They are digging into David's past internet activity, his posts that are either with Celeste, believed to be with her, believed to be about her. There's been a lot of reaction to his hiring of Blair Burke. Before we even get into what the reaction is online, your thoughts on him apparently, reportedly, retaining Blair Burke?
Well, that's a good decision. Anytime your name starts swirling around in a criminal investigation, even though the police have made it clear that he's not a suspect at this point, it's always a good idea to hire an attorney. Before you talk to anybody, before the police come out and talk to you or ask to talk to you, have an attorney in place, have someone who can try to control the narrative, at least, because, of course, he is a celebrity and his wealth and his resources come from his celebrity status. And so you want to protect that as well. And so a criminal defense attorney, someone particularly who's represented other people who were celebrities, can be very helpful in this very important time.
Why do it now? Why do it now? This is after, by the way, that Celeste was ID'd. This was after apparently the property he was renting was searched by law enforcement. They reportedly confiscated some materials. This is after he canceled his tour. This is, after the death certificate was published. Why now?
Well, I think, let's be honest. I mean, this is kind of a strange situation. There's no question there's a connection between him and this teenage girl, very young. Her body is found in his car. He has a place, or his manager has a place nearby where he may have been staying. We can't ignore the lyrics of some of his music, which are eerily close to what the facts of this case are. Now, prosecutors are not going to file homicide charges until they know the cause and manner of death. And, as your viewers, Jesse, know that this could be an accidental death. It could have been a suicide. It's unlikely that it's natural causes. But the question is it homicide? And what was the cause of death? Once those two things are answered, I think this investigation, really picks up some steam.
Talking law here, you know who, by the way, are experts in litigation? Our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. This is a firm with over 1,000 attorneys. You know why they have so many? Because they win a lot. Listen to this. They have recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. Think about that. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. Out in Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. Another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. And even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so simple. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code on screen. What is she doing behind the scenes? In other words, most people think criminal defense attorney, once you're arrested, right? Once you're indicted, once you're charged, once the criminal process starts, that's when you hire a defense attorney. What could she be doing behind the scenes now? Could she be back-channeling communications with her sources, potential sources with law enforcement, the prosecutor's office, seeing whether or not charges are afoot? Could she be trying to tell them what her client is up to? Could she be releasing a statement? Should we expect a statement from her in the next few days?
Yeah, well, so a seasoned, experienced criminal defense attorney has a lot of contacts. So you have people in the prosecutor's office that you have relationships with, whether they be attorneys or detectives. You have people in the police department that you've had long-time relationships with. What you want to do, at this point is get the lay of the land. I mean, what direction is this going in? What are they looking at? We know that his home was searched, I believe. And so you want to know what was found there if, in fact, they want to share. Also, maybe this is a situation where the most serious charge is going to be, abuse of a corpse or illegal disposal of a body. Well, now you want to try to control that narrative and begin to say, hey, my client has nothing to do with this, whatever the situation may be. So you want to know, knowledge is key in this situation. Intelligence, what can I find out so that I can protect my client, not only from criminal prosecution, but the public scrutiny that may come with all this.
I'm curious your thoughts on these comments. So according to Fox LA, people online have said a lot of things. You had one person who commented, you cannot pay me enough to defend this dude. The evidence against is as big as Mount Everest. Another said, hiring a high-profile lawyer usually means you're guilty and just hoping for a lighter sentence. But of course, you had one social media user who pointed out, in the court of law, he is innocent until proven guilty, and hiring legal representation is within his and anyone's right and doesn't make anyone guilty. Matt, thoughts on those?
Well, I think the last comment I think is the wisest comment, because listen, we don't even know what the circumstances are here. I'm sure he's feeling some pressure, whether it's from online, he canceled his tour. He realizes correctly that he needs some professional help. He needs someone to guide him through this situation, whether he's involved in it or not, because he's been involved in it now by implication, by public scrutiny. And for an entertainer, for a celebrity, that's extremely important. So he has to make sure that he navigates this with the best possible advice. I'm sure he has some sort of media people who are crisis management who are also helping him with this. But, you need to have a team together to make sure that you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's in terms of how you best protect yourself in this situation.
Just want to put a point on this. Would it have been wise for him to have retained a criminal defense attorney the minute it was reported that a body was found in a car registered in his name? Or, and put that aside, that's one part. And B, just to be clear, this does or does not indicate that there could be a prosecutorial decision soon. In other words, that there could be an arrest, that there could be an indictment, something of that nature. Just want to put a point on those two.
Yeah, so Jesse, there's a couple ways of looking at that. So number one, it's strange to be out on tour and say, hey, a body was found in your car. But on the other hand, he may say, well, geez, I don't know anything about this. I don't know how this happened, or somebody else has access to my car, and think, well, this isn't going to come back on me. But then all of a sudden, as you see this churning in the media and, on social media, now maybe you say, geez, maybe I better get an attorney. Okay. That could be part of the thought process as well here. But on the other hand, I think your point is well made. Someone may have called from the DA's office, says, listen, we're getting some preliminary reports from the coroner. We don't have a coroner's report yet, but you should get a lawyer. And those are the kind of things that could happen here. I mean, we're speculating, but I could see it, from both perspectives.
So let me ask you this real quick about the timeline. So last year, Celeste was apparently reported missing several times, having apparently run away from her home in Lake Elsinore, California. She had been seen on earlier surveillance video outside of a liquor store in that area before apparently jogging out of frame. This was believed to have been the last time that she was seen, at least on camera. The timeline has since shifted. We talked about this on a previous sidebar, but after TMZ obtained surveillance footage that appears to show Celeste on September 8th, 2024. So this is months after she was reported missing. According to TMZ, the Nest video came from neighbors who said that her family was kind of upset, or she was upset about some kind of ding-dong ditch prank. There's apparently yelling, there's the use of racial slurs. It's unclear if Celeste had returned home at this point or was just stopping by, but it is a chilling detail. This was exactly 1 year before her remains would be found in that Tesla. When we're talking about the timeline, when we're talking about, Matt, about when she may have been killed, how long she could have been in that car, what were her movements, her actions before her death, how significant is this in the investigation? And again, he retains an attorney after all this footage comes out. I'm not saying it's connected at all, not saying it's related at all, but I have to imagine this footage is significant.
Well, yes. I mean, a timeline is always important. Trying to determine, when this potential homicide or when her death occurred, where she was, immediately before that, if you can piece that together, because, that tells us some very important things. Number one, where was David at that time? When you allege that her death occurred, that's significant. Were there other people possibly involved? Was there other connections to her? Where were those people at that same time? So timeline is always something that prosecutors and investigators want to go back and establish because it puts people in specific places when a potential crime occurred.
And I got to ask you about this. Okay, so there's new reporting from TMZ, News Nation, ABC News that apparently shows that Riverside County Sheriff's deputies, they were called out to Celeste Lake Elsinore home 11 times over 14 months between February 2024 and April 2025. Now, it's not clear how many of those calls involved Celeste, maybe involved other members of the family, but there is an important note here that News Nation reports that police acknowledged that deputies visited her home twice on March 19th, 2024. So that's the same day that she was seen outside that liquor store. Celeste's ex-boyfriend, or parent ex-boyfriend, a boy named Damian Hernandez, spoke with TMZ about his middle school relationship with her, telling the outlet that Celeste had a tough home life. TMZ's Charles Latibaudiere told Ashley Banfield, he said that she would say that her parents were really mean and that she didn't like being at home. Okay, Matt, so how critical is that part to this investigation?
Well, I think it's critical because, it appears there's a period of time where she's unsupervised by any adults. I mean, we're talking about the age of 14 years old. She's not at home. Where is she? What is she doing? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Was she attending school? How is she getting to school? I mean, there's a lot of things that you could piece together. I mean, we're talking about a child, essentially, who is missing and is unsupervised. And where is she and how is she continuing to exist in the system, maybe without attending school, without children's services being involved? There's a lot of questions with regard to that.
And I go back to this point, you mentioned it before, why would he hire a criminal defense attorney or reportedly do so? Because he may not actually be responsible for what happened here. He may not be attached to this in any way. There's something that's been circulating here, at least I've been trying to make the point that, is it possible that he's being targeted? What do I mean by that? I think it's really odd, the circumstances of where Celeste's body was found. Because here's what we know from police about how this whole investigation got started. So the Tesla is marked as violating street parking rules on August 27th, 2025. A parking citation is issued September 3rd. September 5th, it is impounded. Celeste's remains were found September 8th. Days later, detectives with LAPD's robbery homicide unit, they served a search warrant at the nearby home that David was apparently renting. They took out several bags of evidence. Exactly what it is, we don't know. He canceled his tour. And on the same day that Celeste's body was released to her family, movers were apparently seen taking things out of this LA rental home, and the homeowner told TMZ that David's manager, Josh Marshall, had told them that they'd be breaking the lease. Okay, let me ask you this. It is strange for someone to, let's say, kill Celeste, put her in this car, and their body's been decomposed. That car has apparently been sitting there in public view for quite some time. There's reportedly been complaints about it, a citation, it's been towed. It seems to me, is it possible somebody wanted that body to be found and wanted that body to be found in the car that was registered to David, as opposed to someone committed a crime, they panicked, they didn't have enough time to dispose of the body. That feels incredibly, incredibly sloppy. I mean, I'm not doing a conspiracy theory here, but I do wonder if that's something that has to be explored.
Well, I think everything has to be explored, Jesse. And it struck me when I read some of the news reports that, his one hit song specifically talks about dragging a person and putting them into the trunk of a car. And we learn now that based on this incident that's occurred, he's back on the Billboard charts with this same song. It's returned. We live in strange times. It's sometimes bad news can be as profitable as good news for a celebrity, for an artist. So could this be someone who's trying to replicate the song? Is this some effort to get the music back into the public domain where people are going to start listening to it, that it ends up on the Billboard Top 100? Like I said, Jesse, sometimes we don't know the difference between good news and bad news and how it impacts you. And I think something like that needs to be thoroughly examined as well.
When do you think we'll get an answer? When do you think we'll get more information?
Well, as soon as the medical examiner's report comes down, that report is going to provide us with the cause of death. But we do have a decomposed body, so that could take a little more time. And it's also going to give us the manner. And if the manner of death is homicide, then this case is going to explode. If it's undetermined, that might be another issue that has an impact on what direction this investigation goes.
Well, one thing I didn't ask you is, do you think he had, there was reporting about he's been cooperative with law enforcement. An LAPD commander says couldn't confirm whether he's been cooperative. Do you think at some point in the last month or so, he has spoken with law enforcement? He sat down for an interview?
Wow. If he did that without an attorney, then he made a huge mistake. And I don't say that that means he did anything wrong. I'm just saying anybody who is a potential suspect or is being investigated by the police, who sits down with the police without an attorney, has made a grave mistake.
Matt Mangino, let's see where this goes next. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Jesse.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll see you next time.